Talk to me about Herb Abrams. I'm dying to hear all about
Herb,
how did you first meet him? Well, you know what? Let's back up even further. Some people might not even know who Herb is. Can you just give us a little background on Herb and how you met him?
Herb Abrams was a lifelong wrestling fan. Bruno Sammartino was his hero, and he was good friends with Georgianne Metropolis. She had her own little wrestling. I guess it was a newsletter called the Chatterbox. And back then, before they had all this internet and stuff, it was all newsletters, or it was like fan clubs and stuff like that, or chat rooms. And she had her own little thing, or they would have little meetings or whatever, or get-togethers at these conventions. But I actually met Herb at John Arizzi's convention. He was going to start booking shows, and he wanted to start his own wrestling promotion. So John Arizzi introduced me to Herb and said, Sunny Beach lives, in New York, and they put us together. And Bruno gave me a recommendation because Bruno, when he was with, WWF a little bit, I met Bruno, and with Tommy D, Bruno worked a lot of shows with Tommy and stuff, and David Sammartino, I worked with him a lot. So Bruno said, yeah, Sunny Beach, and so Bruno was at the convention, and we hit it off. And Herbie, just a nice guy, and he had a couple of big women's clothing stores that's where he made a lot of his money in New York, and then he went out to LA and opened up some stuff out there. He was living out there in Marina Del Rey in Los Angeles, and got to go out there and met with him, and started working with him, pretty much almost full time when he started the UWF. I used to help him do some of the bookings and stuff, and we did a lot of shows up here. I booked a lot of shows for him in the New York area, because when I was running shows, I booked stuff with Herb, and vice versa. He would give me some talent to use on my shows too. So I would call him UWF shows, and he'd give me a sponsorship fee, or he'd pay for like the athletic commission or something just to say he was running shows. So it worked out pretty good. But Herb was a great guy. A lot of stories, there's some true stuff, there's some false stuff, but everything you saw on Dark Side of the Ring, some of it was accurate, some of it wasn't accurate. It's like an urban legend. You want to believe some of the crap, but I'm not going to lie. I mean, he enjoyed to party, and he was the life of the party. He would get out there, he'd sing karaoke. He'd take us, he'd take all the boys out for restaurants, whatever we wanted. He'd pay for the whole thing. He was very generous. That's why all the boys liked him. Some of the boys took advantage of him, no showing them, or get money up front, not showing. And that's why I think Herb, maybe bounced some of the checks to some of the people, or if they didn't work good for him or something, he would jerk them around. But he thought it was a joke, but ultimately it wasn't a joke. It was some of these guys' livelihoods. But he never did me wrong, and he always treated me good. So I never had any problems with Herb. He was very nice to my family, take us out to dinner. I'd have him at my house. He would have me at his, family's home for, like Hanukkah and, all the Jewish holidays. I mean, did he have some demons? Yeah, we all have demons in our closet, skeletons in our closet. But his were a little bit more out there, because he was a public person and people saw him, and, maybe he would go to some of these shows like Blackjack Brawl. He was high as a kite when he was running around out there, and he's in the ring. Let's hear it for the Jews, and, and he'd have 200 people at some of these pay-per-view events. He'd try hard, but, he didn't have the right people helping him promote some of the stuff, like these big corporations. If he would have had, like a Pepsi Cola or a big, corporate sponsor behind him. At the end, he had Blimpie when he was in New York City. I was doing some of the booking for him. He was getting ready to do some, when he died, he was getting ready to do some overseas tours. Germany, he was going to go to Israel. He had all his tapes over there being shown already. So we were doing it the right way. We were going out there 6 months and starting to blast the TV over there. And then we were going to bring some of the, old UWF stars over there and have a couple of tours. And then he passed away, in his office.
Talk to me about some of the talent you got to work with. You got to work with Cactus Jack, Bob Orton Jr. I mean, you got to work with some phenomenal talent for UWF.
I mean, I got to work with those two guys, and I got to work with Mick, when he was really starting out up here in Long Island, with Tommy D and Independence. And, we'd go on overseas tours, and with John Arizzi, his tours and stuff. So we got to do a lot of cool stuff. And with Tommy D, I mean, we were working a lot of, I guess it was like Catholic high schools. We did, I did the Jewish Center over there. Me and Mick did Staten Island. We sold out. We almost had 2,000 people. Jewish Community Center in Staten Island, Arthur Kill Road back in '91. I think in January, somebody called it a bomb threat. We had to evacuate the building. But, that was probably Tommy D calling it in because he never drew 2,000 people in Staten Island. But, I got to work with King Kong Bundy, a bunch of times. He was a great guy. He actually put me over a couple of times in Staten Island for Tommy D. So, he was passing the torch and trying to get me over to get me to the next level too. Mick's the same thing. Bob Orton, we got to go over and beach brawl, and those guys. John Tolis was managing those guys. So getting to work with people like John Tolis, Bruno Sammartino, all these guys, Bob Orton Jr., a wealth of knowledge, Don Morocco, Paul Orndorff, Terry Gordy, Steve Williams, Bam Bam Bigelow. I mean, he even got Andre the Giant, Herb, to come out. And that was not bullshit. I mean, Andre appeared on his tape out in California. He was going to come into New York too. And as soon as Vince saw that, he brought Andre back. And Andre wasn't of the best health back then. And Vince just got rid of him. But for Herb to use Andre would have been like a slap in Vince's face. So Vince wasn't going to allow that to happen. And that's why, he pulled Andre back and gave him another, little run, after that. But Andre was never the same after, probably 1990, after his knees, everything. But, Herb got some of the biggest names because everybody wanted to work with him. Sid worked with him, Danny Spivey, Ludwig Borga, So, I mean, we had just talent was unbelievable. Greg Valentine, Honky Tonk Man. He had Rick Rude, and Vince, had Terry McDevitt, his lawyer, say, hey, if you use these guys, I don't know if they were under contract or not, but they were in the first row at the Pinta Hotel at filmings, in Herb's show. They were ready to work, and Sid worked. I mean, they had a lot of guys. And that was right after he was champion with Vince. So there was some pretty cool stuff. And I mean, he put together, a major pay-per-view at MGM Grand in Las Vegas. He had maybe 200-300 people there. But you got to figure, there's no kids out in Vegas. It's all gamblers. People wanting to party.
Right.
People want to gamble.
Yeah.
There was the wrestling fan base wasn't out there in Las Vegas. And whoever told him to go out there, they were very misleading to him. But Herb had it in his mind. This is where, Muhammad Ali or whoever fought out there, Mike Tyson, they pack out boxing shows here, 18, 20,000 at the Grand Garden Arena at the MGM. I could have a show out here and I could put 20,000 people in there. He put 200 people in there. They had to make it all dark so they couldn't see people. There was nobody there. And then, Cactus and Jimmy Snuka are going up and down the stands fighting, and they're tumbling down the stands.
Yeah.
And there's
no one there.
Empty arena. So it was, it was pretty fun. But, Herb gave you that opportunity to do whatever you wanted. Back then you could do your own interviews. Nothing was really scripted. They tell you who's going to go over and stuff like that, but you got to have your own match. You got to plan out your own match. You get to pretty much do whatever you want. That's what me and Mick were talking about last time we were talking. We said, Herb gave us that freedom to express ourselves and be creative and create our characters and bring the best of ourselves out. We could do whatever we want, we could fight up in the stands. We could, hit each other with chairs, or I could jump off the top of the ring, onto you on a table or whatever. Herb didn't care as long as it looked good. Captain Lou Albano was working for him at the time. Johnny Valiant was working, helping book and do behind the scenes stuff. And he was going to do some color commentary. Johnny Valiant was a great color commentary guy. I don't know if you remember him back in old WWF stuff when he used to, manage Beefcake and Greg Valentine and stuff. And back when he was, working with Vince on the mic and stuff, he did pretty good. So he was a good mouthpiece. Captain Lou was another good mouthpiece. So